The girl woke up early as usual, the first light of morning slipping through the thin curtains of their small apartment. The room was quiet except for the soft coughs of her mother in the next room. She listened for a moment, her heart tightening before getting out of bed. There was no time to waste. Her mother's illness had been getting worse over the past few weeks, and the bills for the medicines and the doctor were piling up. She could feel the weight of the world on her small shoulders, but she tried not to show it. She wanted to be strong for her mother, the one person who had always believed in her no matter what. The kitchen was tiny, almost no bigger than a closet, and it smelled faintly of herbs and tea. She quickly boiled water for tea, careful not to spill it on the old cracked counter. Her mother was lying in bed wrapped in a thin blanket, looking smaller and more fragile than she remembered. She forced a smile. "Good morning," she said softly. Her mother tried to smile back, but it was weak, a shadow of the warmth she used to have. "Morning, my dear," her mother said. "Did you sleep well?" She sounded tired, but she tried to keep her voice light for the girl. "I slept fine," the girl replied, trying to hide the worry that twisted in her chest. She helped her mother sit up, preparing the tea and a small breakfast of bread and fruit. Money was always short, so they often ate simple meals. But even in hardship, they tried to keep little joys alive. Her mother would hum softly as she sipped the tea, a tune from her younger days that made the girl remember happier times. The girl listened and remembered the evenings when her mother would sing along to the songs on the old radio, her voice full of life and hope. After breakfast, the girl grabbed her bag and headed out to start her day. She worked small jobs in the neighborhood, anything to bring a few coins home. She sold flowers on the street, tutored younger children in reading and writing, and sometimes ran errands for neighbors. Every day was exhausting, but she never complained. She carried the responsibility in her heart like a flame, burning steady even in the hardest winds. The streets were busy with people hurrying to work, shouting vendors, and the smell of bread from nearby bakeries. She weaved through the crowd, holding her flowers carefully so they wouldn't get damaged. As she walked, she thought about her mother. The illness had taken so much from them, and the doctor said that the treatment needed was expensive. She knew that the money she earned was never enough, but she couldn't give up. She had promised herself that she would do everything she could to help her mother, no matter what it took. Her mind wandered to the talent show she had heard about from a poster at the local community center. The prize money was enough to cover her mother's treatment. It seemed impossible, almost too good to be true, but the thought gave her a small spark of hope. Maybe this was the chance she had been waiting for. At the tutoring job, she helped the younger children with their lessons. She smiled and encouraged them even when she felt tired. The children liked her and she liked them. Their laughter and excitement made her forget, for a little while, the heaviness of her own life. When the lesson was over, she collected the few coins the parents had given her and tucked them carefully into her small bag. Every penny mattered, and she counted them quietly, thinking about how far they could go toward her mother's medicine. After tutoring, she went to the small park where she usually sold flowers. It was crowded with people enjoying the warm sun. She held her flowers up, hoping someone would notice them. Many passed without even looking, rushing by with their own concerns. Some smiled and bought a few flowers, giving her quick, polite thanks. Each small sale felt like a small victory, but she knew she needed more. She watched families laughing together, couples walking hand in hand, and children playing. It was a simple life for them, but for her, it felt like a world she could only watch from the outside. By the afternoon, she headed to the community hall where she sometimes practiced singing. The hall was small, dusty, and almost always empty, but it had a piano in the corner. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. She opened the door quietly, careful not to disturb anyone. Sitting at the piano, she pressed the keys softly, letting the notes fill the empty space. Her voice rose with the melody, trembling at first, but then growing stronger with each note. Singing made her feel alive, made the world feel lighter, even if only for a few minutes. She imagined standing on a stage, singing for an audience that could hear not just her voice, but the feelings behind it. Sometimes people laughed at her dreams. "You can't sing for a living," they would say. "You need to focus on something real." But she didn't listen. Her heart told her differently. She believed in the power of her voice, and she believed that maybe, just maybe, it could help her mother. Her mother had always told her, "Sing with your heart, and the world will listen." She closed her eyes and sang louder, letting the music carry all the hopes and fears she had been holding inside. As evening approached, she walked back home, the city streets now glowing with the warm lights of lamps and shops. She thought about the talent show again. The thought of performing for strangers was scary, but she knew she had to try. She didn't care about fame or applause. She only wanted to save her mother. She had seen the flyer a few days ago, and she had already imagined what it would be like to hold that prize money in her hands. She pictured her mother smiling without pain, holding her close and telling her how proud she was. The image made her stomach tighten, but it also gave her determination. Back home, she found her mother sitting on the bed, tired but smiling faintly when she saw her daughter enter. "How was your day?" her mother asked softly. She set down her bag and hugged her mother carefully, careful not to knock over the cup of tea. "It was okay," she replied. "I sold some flowers, tutored some children, and practiced a little at the hall." Her mother nodded, pride shining in her tired eyes. "You are working so hard," her mother said. "I don't know what I would do without you." The girl forced a smile, hiding the worry that always lingered at the edge of her thoughts. That night, she sat by the small lamp on the kitchen table, going over the lyrics she had written for her performance. She wanted to make every word count, to let the emotions of her life pour into the song. Her mother watched her silently, touched by her daughter's dedication. "You have a gift," her mother whispered. "Your voice. It can move hearts. Remember that." The girl nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. She promised herself that she would do everything in her power to make her mother well again. As she lay in bed later, listening to the quiet sounds of the city outside, she felt a mixture of fear and hope. The road ahead was uncertain and full of challenges, but for the first time in a long while she allowed herself to dream. She imagined the talent show, the stage lights, and the moment she would sing for a chance to change her mother's life. She didn't know if she would win, but she knew she had to try. The thought of giving up was never an option. Even in her sleep, the melody of her song stayed in her mind. It was a song of hope, of love, and of the promise that she would never give up. She dreamed of standing on the stage, singing with all her heart, and feeling her mother's hand holding hers at the end. And somewhere deep inside, she felt that maybe, just maybe, the world was listening. The next morning would bring new struggles, new jobs, and new chances. But she was ready. She had a purpose, a reason stronger than any fear, and that was enough to carry her forward. No matter how hard life tried to break her, she would keep moving, keep singing, and keep believing that one day everything could change. The next day, the girl woke up with a sense of determination. Her mind was already racing with thoughts about the talent show. She knew that preparing for it would take all her energy, but she could not afford to hesitate. Her mother's condition weighed heavily on her heart, and every moment without action felt like time slipping away. She quickly got ready, preparing breakfast and making sure her mother took her medicines. Her mother smiled weakly at her, pride and worry mixing in her eyes. "You are working so hard, my dear," she whispered. "Just remember to take care of yourself too." The girl nodded, but her focus was elsewhere. She knew that taking care of herself had to wait. Her mother's life was more important than anything else. After leaving her mother to rest, she made her way to the community hall again. The small room smelled faintly of dust and wood, but to her it smelled like possibility. She sat at the old piano and began practicing. Today she would not just hum along. She would focus on every note, every word, and every emotion. Her voice filled the empty hall, trembling at first but growing stronger with each verse. She imagined the audience, the lights, the stage, and the moment when she would sing her heart out for the prize money. She closed her eyes and let herself feel the pain and hope, letting them flow through her voice. But preparing for the talent show was not easy. She had no professional teacher, no fancy instruments, and very little time. Some days, she felt exhausted from running errands, tutoring children, and selling flowers. Her fingers hurt from hours at the piano, and her voice sometimes cracked from practice. People in the neighborhood whispered about her, some encouraging, others critical. "Why waste your time singing? You should focus on real work," they said. But she did not listen. Her heart told her that this was her chance to do something that mattered, something that could change her life and her mother's life forever. Her best friend from the neighborhood often visited during practice. He was always curious about her singing, asking questions and clapping when she performed well. "You really have something special," he said one afternoon. "I don't know anyone who can sing like that." His words made her smile, a small spark of joy in her otherwise challenging life. She knew she had to keep going, not just for herself but for everyone who believed in her. She also knew that the talent show was a big stage, a place where her voice could finally reach people who could make a difference. At the same time, she had to manage other responsibilities. She went to the market to buy small things for their apartment, helped neighbors carry groceries, and sometimes ran quick errands for people who offered a few coins in return. It was tiring, but she never complained. She carried the weight of her life with quiet determination, knowing that every step she took brought her closer to her goal. She often thought about her mother resting at home, hoping her efforts would soon make a difference. Each coin earned, each hour spent practicing, and each word sung brought her closer to the dream she held onto so tightly. In the evenings, she would sit with her mother and talk about her day. Her mother often asked about the talent show, sensing her daughter's hope. "Do you think you can really win?" she asked one night. The girl hesitated, unsure how to answer. She wanted to believe in herself fully, but the thought of losing made her heart ache. "I will do my best, Mother," she said finally. "That is all I can promise." Her mother smiled, her hand resting gently on her daughter's. "Your best is enough," she whispered. "Just sing with your heart, and everything else will follow." As the days passed, the girl grew more confident in her abilities. She learned to control her voice, to project it, and to express emotions through every note. She sang songs of hope, love, and struggle, letting the experiences of her life fill every performance. Sometimes, when the emotions became too much, she would cry silently alone in the community hall, but those tears did not weaken her. They strengthened her resolve. She knew that every hardship, every moment of doubt, every struggle she faced made her voice more real, more moving, and more powerful. The closer the talent show came, the more nervous she became. She had never performed in front of a large audience before, and the thought of strangers judging her made her stomach twist. But she reminded herself why she was doing this. She wasn't singing for fame or attention. She was singing for her mother, for her chance to save the only family she had left. Every fear she felt was balanced by determination. She practiced her song over and over, perfecting every note, memorizing every word, and imagining the moment she would step onto the stage. One afternoon, while practicing, she overheard a conversation between some adults in the community hall. They spoke about the talent show judges, mentioning that they included famous musicians, singers, and even wealthy individuals who could recognize true talent. Her heart skipped a beat. The thought of performing in front of such people was both terrifying and exciting. What if they didn't like her singing? What if she made a mistake? But she pushed the doubts aside. She knew that she could only give her best, and that was enough. Her best friend encouraged her, offering to help in any way he could. "I can hold the sheet music for you, help you practice, or even come to cheer you on," he said. She smiled, grateful for his support. "Just being here is enough," she said. His presence made her feel less alone, as though someone else believed in her as much as she believed in herself. Together they practiced in the quiet hours, laughing when mistakes were made and celebrating when notes sounded just right. The friendship became a small source of comfort and joy amid the stress and worry of daily life. As the day of the talent show approached, the girl began to feel a mixture of excitement and fear. She had worked so hard, but the uncertainty of the stage loomed over her like a heavy cloud. She practiced from morning until night, sometimes until her fingers ached or her voice grew hoarse. Her mother noticed the effort and tried to remind her to rest, but the girl insisted. She could not waste a single moment. Every hour spent preparing brought her closer to the chance to save her mother. Finally, the night before the talent show, she stayed up late, going over her song one last time. She sat by the small lamp, her notebook open, reading the lyrics aloud and humming the melody. She thought about her mother, about all the days they had struggled, about the small victories they had celebrated, and about the hope that this performance could change everything. Her heart was full of both fear and hope, and she allowed herself to imagine the possibilities. Maybe she would win. Maybe she would change her mother's life. And maybe, just maybe, her dreams of singing would finally begin to come true. As she lay down to sleep, exhaustion and anticipation mingled in her mind. She could hear the faint sounds of the city outside, the distant laughter of children playing, the hum of traffic and the quiet murmur of voices. But inside her there was a different kind of noise, a mix of determination, hope, and fear. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I will do my best. For Mother. For us." With that thought, she drifted into a restless sleep, dreams filled with the stage lights, the audience, and the song she had poured her heart into. The morning of the talent show arrived quickly. The girl woke up before sunrise, feeling both nervous and excited. She prepared breakfast for her mother and helped her take her medicines, careful and gentle as always. Her mother looked at her with pride and worry, as though trying to give her daughter courage through her eyes. "Remember," her mother whispered, "sing with your heart. That is all anyone can ask of you." The girl nodded, gripping her mother's hand for a brief moment, drawing strength from the familiar warmth. She dressed in the simple clothes she had prepared, clothes that were neat and clean but nothing fancy. Money was too short for anything else. She packed a small bag with water, a notebook of lyrics, and a few coins she had saved just in case she needed them. Every step she took toward the talent show felt heavy, but with every step her determination grew stronger. She knew that no matter what happened, she had given everything she could to prepare. She would sing with all her heart, and that was the most important thing. On the way to the talent show, she thought about the stage, the audience, and the judges. She imagined herself singing with confidence, her voice reaching every corner of the room, moving hearts with its emotion. She also thought about the prize money and what it could mean for her mother's treatment. Her hands trembled slightly, but she reminded herself that fear was natural. What mattered was courage, the courage to try, to give her best, and to face the unknown. When she arrived at the talent show, the hall was buzzing with activity. Contestants were warming up, organizers were checking schedules, and people were moving about with purpose. The girl felt a wave of nervousness but took a deep breath, steadying herself. She found a quiet corner and went over her song one last time. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she focused on the melody, the words, and the emotion she wanted to convey. She imagined her mother watching, imagining the hope and love that gave her strength. Every note, every breath, every word she had practiced came together in her mind. She reminded herself that this was her moment, and no matter what happened, she would give it everything she had. The girl stood there quietly, ready for her turn, with a mixture of fear, hope, and determination guiding her every thought. The talent show was about to begin, and with it, a chance to change her life and her mother's forever. The day of the talent show had finally arrived, and the girl felt a mixture of excitement and nerves unlike anything she had experienced before. She woke up early, her stomach tight with anticipation. Every sound in their small apartment seemed amplified. The faint creak of the floorboards, the rustle of her mother adjusting in bed, the distant hum of traffic outside. She quietly prepared breakfast, making sure her mother had everything she needed. Her mother tried to hide her worry, but the girl could see it in her eyes. She offered a reassuring smile and whispered, "I will do my best, Mother. I promise." Her mother nodded, placing a hand over hers, and for a moment the weight of fear and uncertainty lifted just slightly. The journey to the venue was quiet. The city streets seemed alive with energy, filled with people rushing, laughing, and talking. The girl clutched her small bag close, filled with nothing more than a few coins, her notebook of lyrics, and the worn sheet music she had practiced on for weeks. She looked at the buildings and imagined the stage inside the hall, the bright lights and the rows of seats waiting for her. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the mix of fear and determination inside her. She tried to steady her breathing, repeating a quiet mantra to herself. Sing with your heart. Sing for Mother. Sing with all you have. When she entered the hall, she was immediately struck by the sheer size and energy of the place. Contestants were warming up, tuning instruments, and rehearsing their lines. Volunteers hurried back and forth, setting up chairs and preparing sound systems. The air was thick with nervous energy, and every sound seemed louder than usual. She found a quiet corner away from the chaos and sat down, clutching her sheet music. Her hands trembled slightly as she went over the notes one last time. The piano in the corner, which she would use for her performance, stood silently, waiting for her touch. Other contestants passed by, some nodding politely, others barely noticing her presence. They were dressed in shiny costumes or carrying expensive instruments. She felt a pang of self-consciousness. Her clothes were simple, and she had no fancy instruments or training. But then she remembered why she was here. None of that mattered. What mattered was her voice, her heart, and the reason she had come to save her mother. That thought steadied her and she lifted her chin, deciding to focus only on what she could control. The moment came when her name was called. Her heart raced so fast she thought it might jump out of her chest. She walked toward the stage slowly, feeling the eyes of the audience on her. The lights were bright, almost blinding, but she kept her focus on the piano and the song she had practiced tirelessly. She sat down, placing her fingers carefully on the keys, and took a deep breath. The room was silent, and in that silence she found courage. She reminded herself that this was her chance to make a difference, that every note she played, every word she sang, could change everything. As she began to play the piano, her fingers trembling at first, a wave of calm washed over her. The notes filled the hall, delicate at first, but gaining strength as she continued. She started to sing, her voice soft and quivering with emotion. The song was about hope, love, and struggle, and every word came from her heart. She closed her eyes, imagining her mother listening, imagining the life they could have if she won. The audience, at first quiet, began to lean forward, drawn in by the honesty and power of her voice. With each passing verse, her confidence grew. She remembered all the hours she had spent practicing, all the jobs she had worked, all the sacrifices she had made. She let all of it flow into her performance. Her voice rose and fell with the melody, carrying not just the notes but the story of her life. Tears came to her eyes, but she did not stop. She had learned that tears did not show weakness, they showed depth, emotion, and truth. Every person in the audience could feel the sincerity behind her song, and it moved them in ways words could not describe. The judges, sitting at the front, watched intently. One of them, a man who seemed quiet and thoughtful, furrowed his brow as he listened. There was something familiar about the way the girl sang, the way she poured her heart into every note. He leaned forward, trying to recognize the voice, the expressions, and the subtle mannerisms. He felt a strange mixture of pride, regret, and amazement. The girl had no idea that one of the judges was not just any judge. He was someone who had been absent from her life for many years, someone who had always wondered about the daughter he never knew. Meanwhile, her mother sat at the back of the hall, holding her breath. Every note her daughter sang made her heart ache with a mixture of worry and pride. She knew how hard her daughter had worked, how much this moment meant. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered a prayer, hoping that the universe would listen and give her daughter the chance she so desperately deserved. Around her, the audience was captivated, some leaning forward, some closing their eyes, completely absorbed by the raw emotion of the performance. As the song reached its climax, the girl's voice soared. Her emotions were no longer just hers. They belonged to every person who had ever faced struggle, who had ever held hope in a desperate moment. The final note lingered in the air, heavy with meaning, and then silence. The hall was still for a moment, as if time itself had paused to honor what had just happened. Then, slowly, the audience erupted into applause. Some stood, clapping with tears in their eyes, others simply stared, overwhelmed by the beauty and honesty of the performance. The girl sat there for a moment, trembling, her heart still racing. She had given everything she had, and now she waited. She did not know what would happen next. Would she win? Would the prize be enough? Would her mother finally get the help she needed? Questions filled her mind, but she tried to stay calm, focusing on the fact that she had done her best. That, she knew, was something no one could ever take away from her. The judges began to discuss quietly among themselves, whispering and nodding. The man who had felt the strange familiarity leaned back, his mind racing. He finally spoke, addressing the audience in a voice full of admiration. He praised her talent, her courage, and her emotional depth. The girl listened, still unsure if he realized who she was or if he was simply speaking as a judge moved by her performance. His words, though formal, carried a warmth that reached her heart. She felt a spark of hope, a glimmer that perhaps everything could change. Backstage, the girl's friends and other contestants whispered among themselves, amazed by what they had just witnessed. Many had seen talented performers before, but something about her song, the emotion and the story behind it made it unforgettable. She walked off the stage, her knees weak, and was guided to a quiet corner to rest. She could still hear the echoes of applause, and it made her chest swell with both relief and pride. She knew that no matter the outcome, she had already achieved something extraordinary. She had sung her truth, and the world had heard it. As she sat quietly, the man on the judges' panel leaned closer to the other judges, whispering in a low voice. His eyes remained fixed on the girl, a mixture of awe and disbelief on his face. Something about her reminded him of the past, of someone he had lost, of a life he had missed. He struggled to maintain composure, knowing that revealing the truth now would be complicated, yet feeling an overwhelming need to acknowledge what he had just witnessed. The emotional weight of the moment pressed on him as heavily as it did on everyone in the room. Her mother, still seated in the audience, wiped away tears, a quiet smile spreading across her face. She knew her daughter had given everything she could. She did not yet know how far this performance would take them, but for the first time in weeks she felt a glimmer of hope. The illness, the financial worries, the sleepless nights, they all felt a little lighter. Her daughter had done something remarkable tonight, something that could change their lives forever. The girl, exhausted but exhilarated, looked around the hall. She noticed people whispering, pointing and nodding in admiration. She felt a strange sense of connection with the audience, a sense that they had shared something important with her. She had told a story through her voice and they had listened. That realization gave her strength, a quiet certainty that no matter what happened next, she had already touched lives in a way she never imagined possible. Finally, the moment of judgment arrived. The judges stood preparing to announce the winner. The girl's heart raced faster than ever, each beat echoing in her ears. She could feel her mother's eyes on her, her best friend's support behind her, and the weight of all the effort, love, and sacrifice pressing on her small shoulders. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and waited for the words that could change everything. The man on the panel, his voice firm but gentle, addressed the audience and the contestants. He praised the talent and courage of every participant, then paused, letting the anticipation build. When he finally spoke her name as the winner, the hall erupted into applause once again, louder and more heartfelt than before. The girl felt tears streaming down her face as she walked to the stage, each step heavy with disbelief, joy, and overwhelming relief. She had done it. She had sung for her mother, for herself, and for the chance to change their lives. The applause still echoed in the hall as the girl walked to the stage to accept her award. Her hands trembled as she held the envelope containing the prize money. Her heart was pounding, and her eyes searched the crowd for her mother. When she saw her mother standing, clapping with tears rolling down her cheeks, a wave of relief and joy swept through her. She had done it. The dream she had worked for so hard was finally becoming real. But there was something else she noticed, a man standing near the front watching her with a strange, intense expression. His eyes seemed familiar in a way she could not place. She shook her head, telling herself it didn't matter. The prize was enough to save her mother, and that was all that mattered for now. The judges were preparing to speak. One of them, the man who had been watching her so closely, cleared his throat. The hall went silent once again. He began by praising her courage and her talent, speaking about how her performance had moved everyone in the room. The girl felt a sense of pride, but also a strange curiosity. The way he looked at her seemed different from the other judges, almost as if he were looking past the stage, beyond the performance, into her very heart. The applause died down and he leaned forward slightly, his voice softer now. "There is something I need to say," he began, his words deliberate, measured, and heavy with meaning. The girl's curiosity turned to confusion. She listened carefully, not understanding where this was going. "This young girl," he continued, "has shown courage, talent, and a heart full of love. Her voice tells a story that is rare, genuine, and unforgettable. But there is more to it than that. I recognize her. I have known her in a way that I cannot explain easily. She is my daughter." For a moment, the girl froze. Her mind could not process the words. She had always imagined her father as a shadow in the past, someone absent, someone she might never meet. And now, standing in front of her, telling her he was her father, was almost too much to believe. The audience was silent, sensing the gravity of the moment. Her mother's eyes widened in shock, then softened with understanding, realizing that the man speaking was indeed her daughter's father. She had always wondered if he had known, if he had tried to find them, and now she saw the answer. The man stepped forward slowly, his hands slightly raised as though to show he meant no harm. His eyes were filled with a mix of guilt, longing, and hope. "I left many years ago," he said quietly. "I did not know about you. I did not know your mother was expecting you. Life took me in a different direction, and I thought I had lost the chance to be a part of your life. But tonight, seeing you sing, seeing your courage and your heart, I know that I am not too late. I want to be a part of your life if you will let me. Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. She had imagined meeting her father many times, but never like this. Never in front of so many strangers. Never after everything she had been through. Her mind raced with emotions, anger, confusion, sadness, longing, and finally a small spark of hope. She looked at her mother, who nodded gently, silently encouraging her to listen, to open her heart. She could see the love in her father's eyes, a love that had been absent but not forgotten. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself as she stepped closer to him. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Her voice trembled, but it carried honesty and emotion. The audience watched in silence, sensing that something extraordinary was happening. Her father reached out a hand, gently taking hers. You don't have to say anything now, he said softly. I just want you to know that I am here. I am proud of you. I have always wanted to know you, and now I finally can. The girl felt a strange warmth as she held his hand. She could feel the sincerity in his words, the years of absence mingling with the hope of a new beginning. She thought about all the hardships she had faced, all the nights she had worried about her mother, all the moments she had worked tirelessly to survive. And now in this moment it felt as if the universe had finally aligned, giving her a gift she never expected, a chance to know her father, to reconnect, and to feel the presence of someone who had always been missing. Her mother stepped forward, tears streaming down her face, and embraced the man. Thank you for coming back, she said softly. For her, for us. This means more than you can imagine. The girl watched as her mother and father held each other, realizing that the family she had dreamed of all her life was finally beginning to come together. She felt a lump in her throat, a mixture of relief and joy that made it hard to speak. The judges applauded, some standing, moved by the emotional reunion unfolding before them. The audience followed, many wiping their eyes, sensing the deep humanity of the moment. It was more than a talent show now. It was a story of love, loss, hope, and reconnection. The girl felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had sung with all her heart, and now her heart was being rewarded in ways she never imagined. After a few moments, the man turned his attention fully to her. You have an incredible gift, he said, his voice full of emotion. Not just your voice, but your courage, your heart, and the way you have faced life. I want to help you, to support you, and to make sure your mother has everything she needs. But most importantly, I want to be your father. I want us to be a family. The girl looked at him, her eyes filling with tears. She had longed for this moment, dreamed of it even in the darkest times, and now it was real. She nodded slowly, feeling a connection that words could not describe. I want that too, she whispered. The man smiled, a mixture of relief and joy lighting up his face. He gently pulled her into a hug, and she felt a sense of safety and belonging she had never known before. Her mother joined them, and together, the three of them stood on the stage, holding each other as the audience watched in quiet awe. It was a moment of reconciliation, of healing, and of hope. The girl realized that this was the true prize, not just the money, but the chance to have a family, to feel love and support in a way she had never experienced. She felt her heart swell with gratitude, knowing that all the struggles, the hardships, and the hard work had led to this moment. The man stepped back slightly and smiled at her. Tonight you have not only won the prize, but you have also shown the world what courage and heart look like. I am honored to be your father, and I promise to do everything I can to support you and your mother. The girl nodded, feeling tears streaming down her cheeks. She could barely speak, but she didn't need to. The connection between them said everything words could not. The audience erupted in applause again, this time not just for her talent, but for the story they had witnessed, the story of a young girl who had faced unimaginable challenges, sung with all her heart, and in doing so, reunited with a father she had never known. People around them were whispering, some crying, others smiling, all moved by the depth of emotion in the room. It was a reminder that life could change in an instant, that love and courage could overcome even the hardest obstacles. Later, backstage, the girl's father introduced her to some of the people he knew, explaining his absence and the mistakes of the past. He wanted to make sure she understood that she was not alone anymore. He spoke softly, reassuring her that she had done nothing wrong and that everything she had achieved was because of her own strength and talent. She listened, absorbing every word, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. Her mother, still holding her hand, smiled through her tears. This is just the beginning, she said. We can finally face the future together. No more fear, no more struggle alone. We have each other now." The girl nodded, realizing how true those words were. The stage, the talent show, and the performance had been the catalyst. But the real miracle was the reunion of a family torn apart by time and circumstance. As they left the hall together, the girl felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Her heart was full, her mind racing with the possibilities of the future. She had sung for her mother, she had reunited with her father, and she had found a sense of belonging that she had longed for all her life. The prize money was important, yes, but what mattered more was the connection, the love, and the hope that now filled their lives. That night, as they returned home together, the girl sat quietly beside her mother and father, feeling a peace she had never known. She thought about all the struggles, all the long days and nights, all the tears and moments of doubt. And she realized that every hardship had led her to this moment. Every tear had prepared her for the joy she now felt. She knew that life would still have challenges, but she also knew that together, as a family, they could face anything. After the talent show, life began to change in ways the girl had never imagined. The prize money allowed her mother to receive proper treatment, and slowly, she began to recover. The relief was immense, but even greater was the joy of having her father in their lives. He moved closer, spending time with them, helping with her mother's care and supporting the girl in every way he could. For the first time, the small apartment felt like a home filled with hope and love rather than struggle and worry. The girl spent mornings helping her mother with simple exercises to regain strength, afternoons practicing her singing, and evenings talking with her father about life, music, and dreams. He shared stories of his life, explained why he had been absent, and assured them both that he wanted to make up for lost time. It was not easy for anyone. Trust and connection had to be built slowly. But each day brought new understanding, small smiles, shared meals, and laughter that had been missing for so long. She continued to practice her singing, now with more confidence than ever before. Her father, impressed by her dedication, introduced her to local musicians, teachers, and opportunities she had never imagined. She learned new techniques, performed in small events, and her talent began to shine even brighter, yet she never forgot why she started. Every song she sang carried the story of her mother, their struggles, and the hope that had led her to this moment. She knew that her voice was more than talent. It was a way to share love, courage, and emotion with the world. The community around them noticed the changes too. Neighbors who had once pitied or doubted her now treated her with respect and admiration. People often came to watch her sing, not just for the music, but for the story of perseverance and hope she carried. Her life had become an inspiration, quietly reminding everyone that determination and love could overcome the harshest challenges. She felt proud, not for fame, but because her efforts had a purpose and a meaning far beyond herself. Her mother's health improved steadily, and with it came laughter and light into their home. They could go on small walks, share meals without worry, and enjoy simple pleasures that had once seemed impossible. The girl often looked at her mother and felt a deep sense of gratitude. Every moment of struggle, every night she had stayed up working or practicing had led to this. She had fought for her mother, and now her mother was there smiling, healthy, and proud. The girl's heart was full, and it gave her the courage to dream even bigger. Her father also played a role in shaping her future. He helped her find opportunities to perform in larger venues, offered guidance on choosing songs, and encouraged her to explore her voice in new ways. He treated her with patience and respect, never imposing his will but offering support and advice. Slowly, she began to see him not as a stranger or a shadow of the past, but as a real father, someone who cared deeply, who wanted to be a part of her life, and who would stand beside her no matter what. The girl also took time to reconnect with her old friends. Her best friend, who had encouraged her from the very beginning, became a constant presence. They laughed together, shared dreams, and reminded each other of the journey they had traveled. It was comforting to know that some things remained unchanged, that some support was unwavering, and that she did not have to face life's challenges alone anymore. One day, her father suggested a small recital for their neighborhood, a way to share her music with the people who had watched her grow. The girl was hesitant at first, unsure if she could perform again so soon. But with her mother's gentle encouragement and her father's quiet support, she agreed. The event was simple but filled with warmth. Neighbors gathered, children ran around laughing, and friends clapped as she sang. Her voice, strong yet tender, carried the story of their lives, the struggle, the hope, the love, and the triumph. By the end, the entire neighborhood was on their feet, cheering, clapping, and crying along with her. As time went on, the girl received invitations to perform in bigger events. Her talent became known beyond her neighborhood, and people recognized not just her singing but the story of resilience that came with it. She never let fame change her. She remained humble, kind, and aware of the journey that had brought her here. Her father, proud and supportive, reminded her often that her greatest gift was not just her voice but her heart. He encouraged her to use her success to help others, to share hope and courage with those who needed it most. Her relationship with her father deepened with each passing day. They shared quiet conversations, worked together on music, and slowly, the gaps left by years of absence began to close. She learned about his life, his mistakes, and his regrets, and he learned about her life, her struggles, and her dreams. They laughed together, sometimes argued, and sometimes just sat in silence, appreciating the presence of each other. It was not perfect, but it was real, and it was enough. The girl also realized that her journey had taught her lessons she could never have learned otherwise. She understood the value of perseverance, the power of hope, and the importance of family and love. She knew that life could be unfair and hard, but she had also learned that courage, kindness, and determination could overcome almost anything. These lessons became a part of her, shaping not just her music, but the way she approached life, relationships, and dreams. Her mother, fully recovered, became a quiet pillar of support. She attended every recital, every small performance, and often sang softly at home with her daughter, reminding her of the simple joys that had kept them alive through the hardest times. The girl cherished these moments, understanding that her mother's strength and love had been the foundation of everything she had achieved. Together they celebrated small victories and big ones, sharing laughter and tears in equal measure. Eventually, the girl began working on a bigger goal, recording her own music and sharing it with a wider audience. She had learned to be patient, to practice diligently, and to pour emotion into every note. Her father supported her, providing guidance, resources, and encouragement. The process was not easy, but she faced each challenge with the same courage that had brought her to the talent show stage. Every song recorded, every note sung became a testament to her journey, a story of love, struggle, and triumph captured in music. Despite the growing attention, she remained humble. She remembered the days of selling flowers, tutoring children, and quietly practicing in the small community hall. She never forgot the nights she had spent worrying about her mother, the struggles she had faced alone, and the dream that had driven her forward. That memory grounded her, reminding her that success was meaningful only when paired with gratitude, kindness, and heart. As years passed, the girl became a symbol of hope in her community. People spoke of her not just as a talented singer, but as someone who had faced immense challenges and never given up. Her story inspired others to pursue their dreams, to care for their families, and to find courage in the face of adversity. She often returned to the small community hall where she had practiced, teaching children, encouraging them to sing, and reminding them that talent and heart could overcome any obstacle. Her family life grew stronger every day. Her mother and father formed a bond, sharing responsibilities, laughter, and care. Together they celebrated birthdays, holidays, and small everyday moments that had once seemed impossible. The girl found peace in the knowledge that she was no longer alone, that she had the support of her parents, and that her dreams could grow without fear. The house, once filled with struggle and worry, now resonated with music, laughter, and love. Through it all, she continued to sing with passion and purpose. Each performance carried the story of her journey, the hardships, the hope, the love, and the triumph. Audiences were moved not only by her talent, but by the authenticity and emotion in her voice. She understood that her singing was more than entertainment. It was a gift, a way to touch lives, and a means to honor the journey that had shaped her. At the heart of it all, she never forgot why she had started. The drive to save her mother had led her to discover her talent, her courage, and her family. The struggles, the long nights, and the sacrifices had created a foundation for her growth. She knew that her mother's health, her father's presence, and her own achievements were the result of persistence, love, and belief in what seemed impossible. The girl often sat quietly with her parents, reflecting on how far they had come. She thought about the days of worry, the nights of hard work and the small moments of hope that had carried her through. She realized that life was not always easy, but with love, family, and determination, almost anything was possible. The journey had shaped her into someone strong, compassionate, and wise beyond her years. And so the girl continued to sing, to grow, and to inspire. She used her voice to bring joy, comfort, and hope to others, never forgetting the struggles that had made her who she was. Her mother thrived, her father became a steady presence, and together they lived a life filled with love, laughter, and music. The small apartment, once a place of struggle, had become a home of possibility. Through every challenge, every tear, and every note sung, the girl learned that hope, perseverance, and love could truly change lives. She had started as a young girl with a dream to save her mother, and she had grown into a young woman whose courage and talent had transformed not only her life but the lives of everyone around her. Life was not perfect, but it was filled with meaning. And in every song she sang, she carried the story of a family reunited, of dreams pursued with courage, and of a heart that refused to give up, no matter how hard life became. In the end, she had everything she had ever wished for: love, family, health, and the knowledge that hope could indeed make the impossible possible.